Hello and welcome to Lesson 2, where we're going to be learning about console input and output. The first thing we're going to have to do is make our project for this lesson. So we're going to select our solution and right-click, go to Add, New Project. We're going to click Console App.NET Core, and we're going to name this one Lesson 2. Hit Create, and we have our new project. Notice that Lesson 1 is bold in our Solution Explorer, and it's also displayed here in our Play button. That means Lesson 1 is the thing that is going to run when we hit play. So we want to select Lesson 2, right-click, set a startup project. And we're also going to want to rename program.cs to console, capital I, capital O, and we'll hit Enter. We'll hit Yes so that we rename our class to console.io, and we'll test that we have hello world printing out so that we're running the right project. And we do. Delete that line. So if you remember, in our lesson 1 task, I had you hard code your name, age, and a decimal value into 3 different variables and then display those variables to the screen. But today what we're going to do is we're going to get those same 3 values, your name, age, and a decimal value, but we're going to be getting those values from the console input, so from things that you type into the console window. To start out, I'm simply going to ask the user a question. I'm going to print out to the screen, what is your name? So we'll do Console.ReadLine, and we'll put our string using double quotes, what is your name? And now to get the value from the user, we're going to use a console, the same with WriteLine, except we're going to use a different method. This time we're going to use readLine. So I'll click that, and this is a method just like WriteLine. So we're going to have to use our open and close parentheses, and we'll put a semicolon at the end. And we're going to highlight over this, and it says, read the next line of characters from the standard input stream, and it returns a string value. So let's run this real quick and see what happens. We print out, what is your name? And I'll say Matt, and I'll hit enter. And then the program ends. So we didn't do anything with my input. I'll close it. What we're going to want to do is we're going to want to save that string. Whenever I typed in the word Matt, this said, okay, he typed Matt, but I didn't do anything with the returned data from this readLine call. So what we're going to do is we're going to set up a variable to put that user input in. So before we call readLine, I'm going to make a string data type, and the name of my variable is going to be my name, and I'll put a semicolon to end the line. So I have an empty value here, and I'm getting a value here. So just like in lesson 1 where we made a variable and immediately assigned a value to it, we're also going to need to assign a value to my name. Let's take a quick look at what our lesson 1 task looked like. Whenever we asked for a name, we said my name equals Matt Bauer. So this string, Matt Bauer, is now going to be replaced by user input from the console. And let's go back to our console.io program. That means I can type the name of my variable here before I do my readLine and use an assignment to get a string from the user. And then we can print that string back to the user and tell them what their name is. So we'll do a console.WriteLine, and we'll put our my name variable inside of it. So it's going to print out whatever the user typed. And we'll save and run it. What is your name? Matt Bauer. I'll hit enter, and what I expect to happen is it's going to print Matt Bauer one more time, and then the program's going to end. And it did just that. There's Matt Bauer. So this is the line that I typed, and this is the line that I displayed. Let's do the same thing again, but let's ask for the person's age. So we'll do another console WriteLine. And inside of that, we'll say, how old are you? But whenever the user puts their age into this, I don't expect them to put a string. I expect them to put an integer value. So we're going to use the int data type, and we're going to name our variable my age. And now that we have a variable, we can assign it down here. So we'll say my age equals Console.ReadLine. But now we have an error. So let's look at our error, hover over the red squigglies, and we'll see that it says cannot implicitly convert type string to int. So if you remember, Console.ReadLine returns a string value, and our error is saying I can't put a string into an integer variable. And we see we're doing exactly that. We have our string on this side, and we have my age, which is an integer variable. So we need to have a way to convert a string that we know is a number because we asked for the person's age. We need to be able to convert this string into an integer. And we can do that using this convert keyword. So we'll say convert, and this is just like console. See how they're the same color? So we're going to do a period, and we're going to use a new method called toInt32. And this is a method, so an open parentheses. And we're going to give this method a string value, and that string value is the user input from Console.ReadLine. And if we hover over toInt, it says here, converts the specified string representation of a number to an equivalent 32-bit signed integer. And looking up here, toInt32 takes a string value and returns an integer value. The string value we're giving it is right here. And then this is going to be an integer value which gets assigned into my age. Now that we have a name and an age, let's display both of those things. I'll use this write line, and I'm going to say your name is the name you input, and you are the age that you input, years old. Let's run this. What is your name? Matt Bauer. How old are you? 29. Your name is Matt Bauer, and you are 29 years old. So now, I have a question. What would happen if whenever we got down to how old you are, you didn't put in a number? Maybe the person is 6 years old and they come to how old are you and they type the word 6. Let's see what would happen. What is your name? Matt. How old are you? I'm 6. We're in debug mode, and it pops up exception unhandled, formatting exception. Input string was not in a correct format. And we'll see that this line right here is highlighted in green, and that's the line that's erroring. It has the red X next to it. We'll get in how to debug things like this in a later lesson, but for now, we know that the program couldn't handle the string 6, and it's completely expected because this toInt method here demands that the string you supply it must be a valid number. And if it's not, this is the consequence. It's going to end the program and say that there's an error. So you have to play by the rules or you can't use the program. Now you'll see that we're still in an odd state in Visual Studio. We still have this green, and our window over on this side changed. If you look up at the top, you'll see that there's a Stop Debugging button. We're going to press that, and that's going to end our program. So since our program didn't end on its own successfully, we had to end it there ourselves. So other than if the user doesn't follow the rules, our program works fine. So we have one more data type that we need to be able to handle, and that's going to be our double. So we need to ask the user for a double. We'll do that with our Console.ReadLine. And we're going to ask the user to do some basic math. What is the decimal value of 1/10? So we're going to need a variable that is a double data type. So we'll use the double keyword, and we're going to name it answer because it's the answer to this question. And now we'll assign it a value. We'll say answer equals Console.ReadLine, and we're going to get the same kind of error that we did whenever we tried to put in a string into an integer value, except this one is going to say cannot implicitly convert type string to double, because we have a string on this side and we have a double on this side, and you can't put the string into a double, just like the error message says. So let's look back at our line 15, and we'll see that the way that we fix this is we used convert.toInt32. And if you're savvy, you might actually be able to guess the name of the method that we're going to use now. We're going to use our convert class, very similar to console. See how they're still the same color. We're going to use convert.toDouble, and we'll supply that method with our string value. And if we hover over toDouble, it says converts the string representation of a number to the equivalent double precision floating point number. And up here, the toDouble method takes a string value and returns a double. This is the string value we're giving it, and this is where it returns the double, and we're assigning it into answer, which is also a double. Now that we have the answer, we need to give the user some feedback. So we're going to do another Console.WriteLine. And since we don't know if the user is correct, we're just going to say, I hope answer is right. Let's run this one. What is your name? Matt Bauer. I am 29. Your name is Matt Bauer, and you're 29 years old. What is a decimal value between 1 and 10? 0.1. And we'll hit enter. I hope 0.1 is right. So that's how we take input from the user using Console.ReadLine, and we can put it into a string. We can put it into an integer using convert.toInt32, and we can also put it into a double using convert.toDouble. And to get the point across, we're going to run it one more time, and we're going to supply an incorrect value to our double. Say, what's your name? How old are you? And here's where we're going to put the wrong value in. We'll just put bad. It's a bad value. And we'll see we get the same format exception. Input was not a correct format. So we get the same exception from the toDouble method that we did from the toInt32 method, because the same kind of thing happened. We were supposed to give it a string that could be converted into a double, but we didn't. And we get this error as a consequence. So I'm going to hit the X, and now I'm going to stop debugging by hitting the stop button. That's it for lesson 2. And now we're going to get the task that's associated with this lesson. And we're going to put that task into its own project. So we'll do the same thing we did at the beginning. We go to add new project, .NET Core, lesson 2 task, hit enter. We get our new lesson 2 task project and a program.cs. We're going to rename program.cs to Console.io task. We'll say yes to that. And then we want to make sure that we set this as our startup project. Now that we have our project set up, we can go to finalparsec.com, blog, lesson 2, and then scroll down. We'll see the notes for the lesson and the associated task. We'll copy the task and go back to Visual Studio, select everything in our Console.io task file, and we're going to paste over it, and then hit save. And the task is create a program that fills out a Mad Lib with data supplied by the user. Note to be sure to have proper spacing between your words, and the example output is going to be ask the user, enter occupation, and then they supply gardener, and then you ask them to also enter a series of nouns, adjectives, and verbs, where they then supply those as well. And after you have all of the inputs, you're going to print out this madlib, where the variables are represented by these angled brackets. So take a moment to do that, and then come back to see the answer. Here's my solution. I get each variable one at a time after asking the user. And then at the bottom, I display the madlib using string concatenation.
Hey guys, that's the end of the lesson. I post videos every Tuesday, and if you want to see more, like and subscribe. I'll see you next week.